welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Good Deeds, your Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, to talk today specifically about kind of a recap of the year 2020 and the real estate activity that occurred, and maybe a little forecast as to what you can expect in 2022. Did I say 2020? I meant 2021. This is now 2022. So joining me today and correcting me, and rightfully so, is
I was going to correct. We'll blame it on the pandemic, and I think that's sort of the theme. Is here we are finishing up 2021, and we're going to remember the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds stayed open and operational every workday, certainly through 2020 when the pandemic started, but through 2021. And amazingly, it was such a vibrant year statistically. And you know, we're going to talk a little bit about statistics and the state of the registry, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank the employees. The employees kept that the registry operational, and people might say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, when you think about it, some of you might have refinanced because the interest rates are low. There are developers building houses. There are lenders lending money. There are appraisers that need the registry. And by keeping open, we kept the real estate economy in this area vibrant. And I have to thank the workers because at risk to themselves and their families, they kept the registry operational. And I also have to give a tip of the hat to Papa Gino's and D'Angelo's had through the pandemic had an Everyday Heroes program that recognized groups in communities that went above and beyond during the pandemic. And in February of 2021, they recognized the employees at the Registry of Deeds and the operations of the registry, and I want to thank them. And again, the statistics I talk about, it can't be done without the good work of the staff. And
before we get there, I just want to mention to folks that a lot of times when you hear about heroes, it is related to healthcare, and certainly they are heroes and first responders, absolutely. But a lot of times people don't think of an institution like the Registry of Deeds.
And speaking of heroes, you're right. And believe me, I have relatives that are police, fire, and then the second generation, the nephews in the fire department. So, relatives, my sister, nurses, those are true heroes every day during the pandemic, being out there. And but these people come and do their job, and that is kind of I'm glad you brought that up because in this state of the registry of how it's been in 2021. We've had a pandemic. Do you know we also had a fire at the Registry of Deeds where the Dedham Fire Department and first responders, I have to thank them, they saw that there was a fire. They discovered the fire. I got that call early Saturday morning that you never want to get a call, but I want to thank the Dedham Fire Department, the state fires marshals, all the first responders that actually knocked that fire down. And more importantly, thank my staff. I mean, again, thank my IT staff that showed up there. We were up and operational. The fire was on a Saturday. We were up and operational on Monday, and no one saw it. But again, we had some experiences with those public safety heroes, and to think what would have happened if that registry of building was lost, then all of what I talk about doesn't take place. And what happened was during the again, we're going year to year. The total documents recorded in 2020 was 179,260, and in 2021 it was 195,112. So that's almost a 16,000 document increase, or 9%. And what goes into that? Well, first of all, deeds, sales. When properties are getting sold, deeds get recorded. Again, a 13% increase in 2021 over 2020 for deeds that got recorded. It went from 18,413 to 20,808. And another part of the statistics, a big part of the statistics, are mortgages. And again, that was only a slight increase of 2%. The mortgages went from 45,669 in calendar year 2020 to January 1st to December 30th of 2021, 46,430. But that's still a 2% increase in mortgages. And again, I think people did refinance, but it might be slowing down because the interest rates are starting to creep up a little. And also, as we get closer to the end of the year, in December, we saw there's a lack of inventory and sales went down. Again, the vibrancy of the Norfolk County Registry, there's 28 communities from the Rhode Island border to Brookline to here on the South Shore. Prices went up. We look at residential and commercial prices, and the average sale price, combining the commercial and residential, went up 9%. So again, if you're living in a community in Norfolk County, it's a desirable place, and you can see the vibrancy of what's going on statistically. Homesteads, I always have to think, it's programs like this. I think people have empowered themselves to learn. You know, my parents didn't have a homestead on their house. They're like, what? It just wasn't. It was sort of the rich people who got advice and counsel from rich advisors and attorneys got homesteads. I think people now know through the internet and through programs like this, where you mention, hey, if you own a principal property and it's your principal residence, whether it's a house, a two-family, a condo, you have a right to declare an estate a homestead. So it's great that shows like this tell people about that, and people go on our website, for instance, to learn about the homestead at www.norfolkdeeds.org. And the proof is in the pudding, because the homesteads in 2020 were 12,487, and up in 2021 it was 13,456. That's an 8% increase. So certainly programs like yours, Mark, that get the word out, you can see it in the numbers, and that's good, because it's written in the law. And I think, I'm a lawyer by training, and sometimes lawyers get a bad rap, and they, talk to 10 different attorneys, you get 10 different opinions. But I always say 9.9 attorneys out of 10 would probably recommend you should get a homestead on your property to protect your principal residence.
And we should mention that here in the Commonwealth, it is automatic. However, an individual can increase the coverage, correct?
Yes. For the first time, it's automatic. And again, thank your local legislators. They put a law through that if you don't do anything, you get $125,000 worth of protection, and it gets a portion depending on who owns it and how many people own it.
But based on property value. Let's talk about the increase.
Oh, well, the increase, for me, it's a relatively minor filing fee, relatively small. Again, the state legislature sets the filing fees. But for $35, you can get a homestead filed, which increases it to $500,000. And depending if you're a senior, you can sometimes, stack it. But the big thing is that homestead, and some people might say, oh, well, my house is worth more than $500,000. Well, I think if you get yourself in trouble, I think the courts kind of interpret it like, look, we're going to protect your principal residence. So it puts a picket fence around the house. Again, not for some debts. You better pay your mortgage or they can foreclose. You better pay your local community because they'll take it out of tax title. But people get themselves in trouble, whether it's credit card debt or things like that, and it does at least put protections around on the house. And there are other hidden protections. For instance, if you go to sell your house, if you have a recorded homestead, it will protect the proceeds of the sale, again, for a limited period of time, 1 year, so that people don't come in and swoop it. Or if your house burns down and you get that big check to rebuild the house, if you have a homestead recorded, the proceeds of that insurance check are protected, again, for a limited period of time, 2 years. So there's all these little hidden protections, but I think it's a great consumer protection to have a homestead, so people should do it.
And if you could just clarify something, I don't know if it's just for me, but likely there's other people out there that may have the same question. So if someone were to refinance, they had a homestead, they refinanced, and let's say they added the added protection, would you say 500,000?
Yeah.
What happens during a refinance? Do you have to check to make sure that gets carried over? Do you have to refile?
There was a change in the statute. And again, I know because I had 3 kids in college. When I refinanced, I had to put another homestead on because no one reads the 30 pages of a mortgage document.
No?
And it would my homestead got terminated.
Okay.
and for $35, wait, put another one on. Again, thank you, local legislators. Effective March 16th, 2011, if you refinance after that date, and even if the mortgage document has that language in that terminates your homestead, the legislature has written that it doesn't terminate your homestead. So if you refinanced if you put a homestead on after March 16th, 2011, you should be fine, even if you don't have to keep doing what I did, because my kids are a little older now. I was refinancing before that effective date, where and again, I thank the local legislators, and because, you sometimes you present these things to the local legislators and it doesn't always get into law, but you got to thank your local legislators for getting that consumer protection in, so that if you recorded a homestead after March 16th, 2011, and you refinanced afterwards and that language was in there, it does not terminate your homestead. So that's great for the consumer. I did mention how if you don't pay your mortgage, the homestead's not going to help you. At least with the process. And that was one set of good news. Some more good news. The Registry of Deeds only gets involved in foreclosures because by law, if you're not paying your lender and they file a lawsuit to foreclose on you, they have to file a notice of foreclosure at the registry. And that's the first part of the process. And it just shows you how sometimes we have to adapt. Back in 2007, and when we saw a big number, I said, we have to start tracking that. And so we started tracking. I mean, it's not something I really thought about tracking, but then you saw people struggling. Well, the good news is on notices of foreclosure, it's down, and again, relatively countywide, it was 183 in 2020, and it's 141 in 2021. Which is down 23%. So, and foreclosure deeds are at the end, if people get foreclosed on. But when you get a notice to foreclose, what we've done, and if you've gotten one, at the registry, we've partnered up with some nonprofit groups to get people advice, get people counseling. These nonprofit groups I'm going to talk about actually give people counseling services on how to manage the money, how to deal with credit cards and things like that. So if you go to our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, you can go to the foreclosure section, because we've partnered up with NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, Quincy Community Action Programs, and there's also information to the Attorney General's office, which provides resources. And even though it says Quincy Community Action Programs, both groups, the NeighborWorks Housing Solutions and Quincy Community Action Programs, have committed to helping people, countywide in all 28 communities to try to get some advice and some help. So if you fall into that category, don't wait until the sheriff's office is selling the property at a foreclosure sale. Try to get on it right away and try to get the help. And there are people struggling, and again, avail yourselves of these services.
Absolutely. And just as we attempt to forecast into 2022, we know that interest rates are now creeping up, as you had mentioned.
Well, again, interest rates are creeping up. I think that a lot of people who are in the sub threes for interest rates, aren't seeing that now, and they're creeping up. And will that have an effect on sales? It probably will. Although there's no inventory, so there's still a lot. When I anecdotally talk to the real estate brokers, they're saying there's still a lot of competition for a house sale, because there's just not enough inventory. Where I think you'll see the interest rates having a big effect is on the refinancing, because most people probably took advantage of those low interest rates when they were in the 2s or in the low 3s, and now they're creeping up. And so maybe people say, well, wait a minute, I already refinanced, and it doesn't make sense for me to refinance when the interest rates have gone up. So I think we might see some of these numbers going down, but we've been very busy, and the proof is in the pudding. One of our milestones in 2021 is we recorded our 40,000th book. So the Norfolk Registry of Deeds started in 1793, And they've always recorded books. And even though I've prided myself and my team has prided itself on utilizing technology and implementing a lot of modernization initiatives like electronic recording and consumer notification service and all these things, we tried to be real cutting edge with the technology. We still do it the old-fashioned way. We still print books, and some people still want to use the books. So, when I started, it was book 17,000, and now we're up to book 40,000. And so it's been a busy time, and I know I may have to reassess printing books, but there's only been 11 registers of deeds since 1793, and I figured all of them are printed books, and I actually don't want to be the first register to stop printing books, although some of my colleagues around the state have taken pride in that. But I try to do the computer side, but also do the book side.
Well, I just on a side note, I still, when I read a book, I still want a book in my hand. I do the digital side of things, and clearly here at Quincy Access Television, I work a lot on the digital side. But I like something physical that I can hold, and the books, of course, at the registry, very much so.
And again, the registry is at 649 High Street in Dedham. You can come down and open the book and see the first deed recorded, book 1, page 1, from the town of Foxborough back in 1793. Register Elephant Pond accepted it. But the good news is we've tried to bring the Registry of Deeds records into the people's homes and businesses. So if you go to our website at www.norfolkdeeds.org, it's like a library. You can do research and look up the documents and view the documents back to 1793. So again, we have quite a bit of documents in our library, millions of scanned images, and it goes all the way back to 1793. And again, we're here to help the real estate economy. We have a lot of registry users that depend on it, and people think the lawyers, the title examiners, the engineers, the appraisers, but more and more people are using the registry for genealogical and historical research. So we had a program. I called it the History Comes Alive program. We transcribed all these handwritten documents. Now, I'm talking about my modernization initiatives, but back in 1900, Register Burdekin talked about his, which was the typewriter. But between 1793 and 1900, all the documents were handwritten. So we transcribed those. So when you go on our website, you can view the handwritten document. That's the legal document. But then you can hit a button that puts the transcribed document. So from 1793 to 1900, we transcribed over 450,000 documents, and we've gotten great reviews. I always bring up John McCulloch, who is an author, has written about the Adamses, wrote about how this makes it easier. He said someone who is so used to reading documents, having a transcribed document to line up with it makes it easier. And we find more and more people are using the registry for historical and genealogical research.
And here's a subtlety for you at home. Notice the register's tie. All right. Look at all those signatures.
Yeah. Well, these. Actually, it was a gift. And it's all the signers of the Declaration of Independence are on this tie. So I enjoy history. I enjoy what I do, trying to make this relevant in this modern technological world. But I also recognize, you have a stewardship to the history of Norfolk County. And, 4 presidents were born in Norfolk County, and we have the documents that involve those 4 presidents. So, again, to the people on the here and now, take advantage of what we talked about, the homestead. We have a consumer notification service.
You mentioned that for folks.
Well, and that's important. Again, utilizing technology. The FBI says that property and mortgage fraud are the fastest growing white-collar crime. So what we did a few years back was do a consumer notification service. And I should have marketed it because now there's all this advertisement for title lock and everything like that, and rightly so. People should be concerned. We haven't seen it in Norfolk County, but recently in Worcester County, someone got convicted for illegally selling titles to property. So what this does, I've signed up myself. You get an email notification of any document in my name that gets recorded at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. Sometimes I'm William Patrick O'Donnell, but sometimes it says William J. O'Donnell. Well, it's not me. Or it's, I'm from Norwood. It's a William P. O'Donnell, but it's not Norwood, But there will be a time when I get that email where maybe I read it and say, hey, that's the deed to my house, or that's a mortgage, I didn't sign it. Now, we're not going to prevent the fraud, but this consumer notification service kind of puts you on notice, and then we have links to the law enforcement that you can get on that. You may want to get your own attorney to start solving the issue that there's some fraud going on. Now, I can do this on the computer to those people who aren't good on the computer, and I always tip my hat to my father. When we were talking about modernizing the registry, when I became Register of Deeds, he said, hey, a lot of us don't know anything about computers and don't want to know anything. So we have a customer service.
She won't touch a computer.
Well, you gotta move with it, but we do have a customer service center, and we created that. It's 781-461-6101. So if you had signed up for the consumer notification service and you got this email and you're like, you could call our customer service department and say, hey, look, is this, get some help. And that's on any issue, not just the consumer notification that you got an email. It's on any issue. If you need someone to check you've paid off a mortgage and you want to make sure the mortgage discharge has been recorded that tells the world that mortgage has been paid off, you can call the customer service center and they'll walk you through it.
I do want to discuss the Chief Information Officer, that position, because we did discuss this quite a bit in 2021. So could you give us an update on that position at the registry?
Sure. Well, sadly, I had hoped the issue would have been resolved, and we did have a hearing on December 8th in front of the county commissioners, and again, all we are, and I was so impressed with my staff. I mean, my former first Register of Deeds, my current first Register of Deeds, a second Register of Deeds who came over from another registry saying, hey, Norfolk County, they are the gold standard here, and they've done it through technology. So we had our hearing, but it's still moving forward. It hasn't been resolved, and the issue is this. The Norfolk Registry of Deeds, this calendar year, you heard all the statistics, collected $82 million, recorded over 195,000 documents. Well, we did it with technology. And we've been having an issue where we just want, as the Register of Deeds, I've been elected, I've been tasked with running the registry, and we need technology. And we just want to keep the Registry Information Technology Department and the Registry Chief Information Officer, which has been in existence for 20 years that I've been there, but even before that, we just want to keep them in place. We want them to be an on-site, direct report, permanent staff. And it's been like that, and we've been very successful. I think
it's about 35 years.
Well, it goes back to even, I'm the 11th register. It goes back to the 9th register, Barry Hannon, who had an IT department, because there was always technology going on, even in the 70s and 80s. And then Paul Harold continued to have a technology department. So again, my big thing is we want to keep that there because our IT department is intertwined into our registry operations. So, and we have relationships. I mean, documents get sent to the assessing departments. Monies are collected. The the Community Preservation Act monies that filter their way back to towns get collected at the registry. We collect $82 million. You don't think I'm not scared of a cybersecurity attack or a ransomware that affects operations? And some of you may be saying, well, this has nothing to do with me. Well, if you own property or you have a house, the records at the registry authenticate the title to your home. So we all have a stake in making sure the registry is the best registry it can be, and not being able to keep an information technology department, an IT department, and not keeping a registry CIO. It's just it's not a sound policy, and it needs to be changed. It needs to be brought to an end. I know it's getting continued. I just wish it would end, and I hope it ends the right way, which is that the registry gets to keep its IT department. And people know I had to file there was a vote not to appoint the Registry Chief Information Officer because the last person was retiring, and I had to file a lawsuit reluctantly. only because of that lawsuit did I get the county commissioners to sign the chief information officer, they made it temporary. I've been advocating to make him permanent since June 30th, and just this week he resigned. And I don't blame someone. When you're not, his resignation letter, which the county commissioners got, speaks for itself, where he says, hey, I was temporary. I got to do something, and it's understandable for your family and for you. So the issue needs to come to an end, but I want it to come to the end the right way, which is that the registry gets to keep its IT department because it's needed.
And just briefly, what brought about this change in the first place?
They did a study. Now, I don't know where suddenly the study got linked to the registry chief information officer, because the study was supposed to be completed, and when we went to appoint the registry chief information officer, that study group had never even been by the registry. They've been engaged since September 2020, and they wrote to the commissioners and said, oh, don't fill the position. Well, wait a minute. Your report, that was in June of 2021, and the report just came out in September and October of 2021. My issue is you never came by the registry to see the operations. And let me tell you, don't be saying the registry wasn't open, because we were open and operational every workday, and we've been recognized, as we mentioned, by Papagenos and D'Angelo's because we were open. So a vendor could have come in to look at it. And as a matter of fact, people forget the vaccines came out in the spring. We had over 200 people at the registry getting a Moderna vaccination. It was open. The building was open for people in the trial courts and other departments. Again, thanks to Mike Morrissey for coordinating that. The point I'm making is the building was open, in February and March with people streaming. Actually, that was March and April for the Moderna shots. Vendors are coming in and out of the building, and so this study group couldn't come in to make observations of not only the IT department, the operations as a whole. So I hope that the study recommendations, which runs counter to what I'm saying, they don't want to keep the IT department at the registry. I'm hoping that I think based on the facts, we know what the decision should be, that the registry should keep its IT department. I think in this era of technology and ransomware and cybersecurity, it's a common sense decision, but we'll see.
We'll see. Well, Bill, I want to thank you for coming in and chatting with me, but in turn, really chatting with the folks throughout the county.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, and whatever we can do to serve you at the registry, please feel free to either contact us through 781-461-6101 or email me directly, registerodonnell@norfolkdeeds.org.
Great. Well, until next time, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And thank you at home for watching. Please continue to watch Local Access programming and support it as well for programming just like this.